What a day in prospect, lads. Right, welcome back everybody to the latest episode of the Jump Show. Great to be back, and this week we're going to be previewing the Coral Gold Cup. Newbury, of course, and Newcastle's fighting fifth, as well as a smattering of other top-class races. It promises to be some weekend in store, that's for sure. No Dan Overall this week. Instead, we have a special guest, and welcoming Pete Risk for Awards on Twitter to the show. Pete, great to have you on, and I know that you're a big National Hunt fan and really enjoy this time of year.
Yeah, I really do. Thanks for having me on, lads. Big boots to fill, obviously taking Dan's place, given the best part of 2 hours notice. So I know Dan's more of a handicapper, so I've just about learnt what a handicap is, ready to go. But yeah, no, this time of year, brilliant time of year. Last week was brilliant, and really looking forward to this weekend as well.
Yeah, and you've garnered quite the following on Twitter. It's been good to see you sort of get that social media following, and you can tell how big a fan you are. It's great to see. Jake, great to have you on as always. You seem to be the mainstay, the man who just always turns up. Me and Dan are always crying off, but you remain a solid.
Yeah, well, someone's going to do it, haven't they? Yeah, we had the dreaded text from Dan just after midnight last night saying he was going to be ill and not be able to attend. So quick scramble this morning, and we found a man who could fill his boots, hopefully. So we'll see how we get on. But yeah, looking forward to another great weekend of action. The Coral Gold Cup looks a vintage renewal, which is something we've not been able to say for a while. A max field of 24. Time to get stuck in, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, just on the Jump Show, we'd like to send our best wishes to Dan. Don't worry, he's not dead. I think he's got a dodgy stomach, so hopefully it clears up soon. I'm sure he'll be back for next week. But yeah, good stuff, guys. Right, let's move on, shall we? Before we do, actually, I just wanted to say we've been doing really well with the likes on our videos so far this season. And if we can get to 200 again, that would be fantastic. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, because we're starting to get on that train now of loads of subscriptions and some people who keep coming back to our videos, which is great to see. So we'd like to keep that going. As usual, we do a recent notable performance for the first segment of the show, the last week or so, a horse that's really impressed us. So Jake, come to you first. Who are you picking this time?
Yeah, well, I'm going to do two because I'm going to do Dan's as well because, well, one, he had already written it down on the running order before he fell ill, and two, he actually stole it off of me to put it on his running order. So I'll go for his first, and that's a horse called Ole Ole for Gavin Cromwell. Now, this is a juvenile hurdler who's coming from France. He finished third at Clairefontaine over in France before being purchased. He's gone to Gavin Cromwell. Obviously, we all know Gavin Cromwell's been in pretty terrible form recently. I think on last look, he's won from 68 in the last 14 days. I think that includes flat as well. But it's really not going well for him at the moment. Hopefully, they'll start, bouncing back soon. But this horse actually ran really well on his debut, despite the stable form. He went to Punchestown for a 3-year-old maiden, and he finished second. Really good run. Looked like he could go and pick him up and win it, but then just petered out a little bit at the end, and that's probably, you could probably put a little bit towards stable form on that. The winner was actually Quinto de Laga, who is with Jesse Harrington, and he won a academy hurdle before coming here. So he was able to run in this race, having won a hurdle race without a penalty due to the rules of academy hurdles. It's going to be a trick that I think a lot of Irish trainers are going to use. There's one at Newbury on Friday for Gordon Elliott as well. So that they're going into these juvenile hurdles with experience of winning, and obviously this horse went and did the job. Ole Ole ran really well in second. I think, he's had the 2 runs now. He only needs one more to get into the Boodles. I'd imagine that will probably be the target. So he's definitely one. And the other one I'll just mention very quickly for me was Jet to Vegas. He finished second to Kingston Pride on his chase debut in October. That was obviously a really good run. He then finished second again at Ascot on Friday. That was behind Thomas Moore, who's rated 142. I think Kingston Pride's 141. So 2 really solid yardsticks he's finished second to. Not been able to change his handicap mark because he's running beginners chases. So he's finished second twice, quite close up on both occasions. He's still rated 137. There's going to be a handicap for him come the spring. We know how good Lucinda Russell is at getting these, novice chases to then go into a handicap. I don't know if it's going to be 3 miles, 2.5 miles. You've got, the ultimate. It could potentially be an option if they step him up. You've got the novice handicap chase if he stays at 2.5. But I think he's a horse to keep on side.
Yeah, good stuff, Jake. I'm sure Dan will be very pleased with that write-up for a lay. That was really comprehensive. Right, Pete, on to you. What's impressed you in the last week or so?
So mine's more a little bit left field. It's more 1-4, probably the handicap for the future, and that's Shuffle the Deck. He finished fourth behind Kit's Ball. He's beaten 15 lengths, which, as usual, you look at and you think, okay, well beaten Chase debut. Is he going to be that good? But I think further down the line, you look back at some of his hurdle form. He was third on debut behind Butch Cassidy, then went on to beat Eastern Legend fairly comprehensively. He was sent off as short as 8-1 to beat the Yellow Clay in the Lawlers and Nace. He was pulled up that day, and then not seen. He was given a break for the best part of 4 months. He returned in April, back at Nace again, and he hammered the Cashadell lad, who he was going away from in the finish. That horse is now rated 146, having finished third to Nadawi in the Galway Hurdle. Beat Charisma, who runs today in the 12:55, and has won again twice since. So that horse is now rated 146. Shuffle the Deck's rated 140 as a hurdler. So obviously not yet to get a chase mark. I just thought it was very interesting that Mark Walsh had the option and he's chose to ride Shuffle the Deck. The money was there. He was around 5-1 rather than Kay Doughty was a second string. But I just thought it was one of those, like, you look in the background and he was getting a very, let's say, educational ride. I've looked through the race IQ data and he jumped very well. Like there's nothing wrong with his chase debut at all. And I just think it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up running similar to this and he ends up getting a mark around probably the high 130s, low 140s. And then suddenly you see him turn into like a 150 chaser. So he could be one just to keep an eye on further down the line, especially with that back form of Cashel Delad.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty shrewd pick, to be honest, Pete. And we've seen McManus horses tending to go and suddenly improve in handicap company, haven't we, in the past? So that could easily be one destined for that kind of thing as well. I'm going to go. I mean, that is quite a shrewd pick, I would say. I'm usually fairly blatant with my picks. I don't tend to look beneath the surface too much, and unfortunately, once again, I'm doing exactly that. I went into many notebooks. I'm sure did Sonic Pioneer at Kempton on Monday, and there's a good reason for that because he was ridiculously impressive in that juvenile hurdle. He was rated 79 in the end on the flats. He won his penultimate start for Jack Morland at Beverley off 70, then went and finished second at Pontefract off 76. So he earned that rating of 79, but he was no superstar. He could be a star over hurdles on what we saw on Monday. And clearly, Connection saw enough in his flat form and the way he's built as a physical and his pedigree to think that, yes, this horse could make into a decent hurdler because he was bought, snapped up at an undisclosed fee by Harry Redknapp and a couple of others. Runs in Harry Redknapp silks. And it looks a really shrewd purchase because he won by 14 lengths at Kenton in a juvenile hurdle on Monday, and it was the way he quick and clear from the last that was so impressive. Zarakajak, who was also making his hurdles debut, he's a decent flat horse as well. He was kind of looming there with a couple of hurdles to go, but as soon as Sean Bowen asked the winner the question, it was just zoom, push button stuff, and he looked a bit of a weapon, to be honest. 14 lengths is no mean feat. Drawing that far clear from the second last at Kempton, and he hit the line so strong. I was really taken by it. Thought it was a proper performance, and it's good to see Martin Keithley perhaps with a really good one in the making. I'm not going to get too excited because, of course, it's early days, that juvenile hurdle. It may not be up to much, but I do think Zarakajak, who was well supported in that beforehand, could be a horse to follow for sure. Right, let's go to Friday, and our preview starts with Newbury and the John Franklin Novices Chase. It's a Grade 2, and Pete, will come to you for starters in this contest. What do you make of the field in general? We got 6 going to post.
I thought it was a fair field, but I think this was the race that maybe lump sum was due to be in. But yeah, it's not a bad turnout when you think about what the level and standard of novice chaser there is over this side of the water. And the first thing for me straight away was I was looking at who's got chase experience, who hasn't. And you look at the stats and it says 9 of the last 12 winners all had chase experience. But then you dig a little bit deeper and 3 of the last 5 didn't. So it's like the stats are changing maybe. And that again might go down to the fact that we've got smaller fields now. You're not coming here and taking on 15, 20 horses. You're coming on taking 4 or 5. So that immediately led me towards... I think the front 2 do have a class edge. I think Kingston Pride is very interesting. may well step up to this level. But when you look at the back class of both Regent Stroll and Wendigo, Wendigo's forms had form boosts left, right, centre. Obviously, with Wade out winning. In fact, I think there's 5 runners in that field. I think 4 of them. Yeah, Wade Out's won, Accelero's won, and Pickrock's won. I know, obviously, on Seat of the Rider at the time. Wendigo and Regent Stroll obviously met last year. Regent Stroll was beaten by Wendigo, but Wendigo was 25 to 1 on the day. Regent Stroll was 5 to 4. Regent Stroll's chance was gone within probably the first 2-3 furlongs. He was just so babyish. He just did so much wrong. He was keen. So I found this really difficult to split the front end, but I just think over the 2 mile 4, I'm not sure why maybe it's a bit like the Willie Mullins, like you're trying to be a bit more like Willie Mullins in the fact that they're trying to harness the speed over 2 mile 4 and then step them up later on. I've just thought Wendigo's an out and out 3 miler. He wants obviously the trip, travels so smoothly when obviously out battled by Wade Out. So it just points me towards Regent Stroll. I love the angle, the form line with Honesty Policy. I thought that was a huge run for both Honesty Policy and Regent Stroll. A real coming of age. My only negative is I just don't know where I stand with Paul Nicholls at the moment. Like I looked through his form, he's 2 for 26, 8% that is, and out of those 26, 12 of them were sent off 5 to 1 or shorter, and plenty of them were favourites. So it's so difficult. But again, one of the winners in recent times, I think it was Hermes Allen. Yeah, Hermes Allen, he won on Chase debut for Paul Nicholls. So by default, it'd be Regent Stroll for me in a long-winded way.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there about the trip, because Wendigo, we all know that he's going to be at his best over 3 miles in the future. So I definitely think Regent Stroll has got more speed. I'm a huge fan of Honesty Policy as well. I think he'll take very high rank this season in staying hurdles. So yeah, like that argument for sure. I'm just going to quickly get in before Jake, because unfortunately for probably everyone watching this podcast, I'm going to have to stick with no questions asked, because he's my novice to follow for the season. And do you know what? I'm quite happy to, because he's actually earned the highest Racing Post rating of any horse over fences so far with that victory over Vero Flay. Not quite sure how that's happened, but
I don't understand how it's 149. It's absolutely mental.
Yeah, I don't get it.
And a three-runner affair as well.
I know. I'm hoping that they've got it right, but I'm not sure. Yeah, he couldn't have done anything really much better, I didn't think, on Chase debut. He travelled well, he quickened up well, he jumped really nicely. I thought he probably would go into it. They've always thought he's a chaser. This is obviously a massive step up, and he wasn't quite as good as the top guys in this over hurdles. He had about £7 or £8 to find with the likes of Wendigo and Regent Stroll. But we've seen Chase horses improved when they go over fences, and I'm hoping that no questions asked is going to be one of those. And Vero Flay did run well in a handicap on Monday at Kempton on Monday. Didn't quite win, made a proper Horlicks of the second last, but still ran pretty well. So I'm hoping that no questions asked is going to be able to take this step up in grade in this stride. And he's now got that experience and that race fitness. So fingers crossed he can run well. Jake, who do you like in this?
Yeah, as you boys have said, Wendigo, the reason that they said he got beat on Chase debut is because it was over 2.5. Here he comes again, over 2.5. Don't really understand that. Be happy to take him on. I think he's going to be a really nice horse when he does get up to 3. I think he obviously he's very talented, but I think he's a stayer rather than a speed horse, especially over 2.5 around Newbury. Regent Stroll, obviously could be the absolute fly in the ointment here. The year before, obviously Hermes Allen won on his Chase debut. Last year, Captain Teague went off joint favourite and got beaten. So mixed record. Paul Nicholls' form isn't great. Yeah, I think he's got a solid chance, but I'd be happy enough to take him on at the prices just because he doesn't have that chase experience. Whereas Kingston Pride is the one that I quite like here, and he obviously does have that experience. And I think of all the horses who made their chase debut already, I think he's probably achieved the most. I think that his chase debut of beating Jets of Vegas, who I've obviously already mentioned, was a very good performance. They got him out nice and early, in October. So he's had a decent break of 38 days before coming here as well. But I just like the way that Sean Byrne was gave him a very waiting wide ride at Perth. Tripoli Flyer was in there, went off, the favourite. He ended up unseating, but Sean Byrne didn't push him to then get to the lead as soon as that happened. He waited and waited and waited, absolutely pinged the last, and just all that momentum carried him through to the line, and he went off and scored quite nicely. So I think 2.5 miles is trip. Ollie Murphy's going to have him absolutely primed for this, and yeah, this has always been the target. So you'd hope for a massive run from him, and 5 to 1 against the front two around 2 to 1. I think that's probably the play.
Yeah, interesting stuff, Jake. I wonder with Wendigo, we all mentioned the trip here. I do wonder if they're just going to go forward and try and make it a test because that would seemingly be the most sensible thing
Yeah,
to do, I think.
I'd
Given the fact,
imagine they probably will.
yeah, I mean, he jumped well on Chase debut, didn't he? So you can see him at Newbury just trying to make all. And I think if he does do that, he'll be pretty hard to catch, to be honest. But yeah, fingers crossed one of our horses goes and gets him. Right, on to the Coral long distance hurdle. Now, Honesty Policy is a notable absentee from this race. Bit of a shame because I was looking forward to seeing him. But at the same time, the JP McManus Silks of Ante-Post are carried here by Nicola Boinville, Nicky Henderson. A strong leader in there looking to win this race again. Take No Chances, Hewitt, Dottie the Great, Ahoy Senor, and Botox Haas are the other runners in the field. Ante-Post, I suppose, Jake, is a newcomer to this kind of sphere, and it's quite nice to see a young pretender coming into this long distance division.
Yeah, we always like a newcomer in the stayers hurdle division, don't we? And as the market has suggested, he's now, I think, 9-4 favourite pretty much. So yeah, him and Strong Leader have gone in right at the top of the market. You can see why Impotoire, I took him on in that Attempts race, but he was never getting beat. He was off mark of 148 that day, which is quite steep for any handicap, really. And he absolutely demolished them on the bridle. So you have to say that he's worth a chance at this level. He would be the one that interests me the most at this level as well, because I think there's a lot of has-beens and horses we've seen around the block many times in here. But the price does not tempt me in at all. So it's going to be a no bet race for me, but I'm definitely interested to see how Impotoire goes. As much as Strong Leader obviously is the one that's had the prep run, and this is his kind of Gold Cup, really, isn't it, these days? But yeah, it's an interesting race, but I'll be seeing it out and seeing what happens.
Okay, what about you, Pete?
Very, very similar sort of angle in the fact that I can't see him. I was very keen on seeing Honesty Policy go here.
Hmm.
And then I look through now and I think Ahoy Senor and Hewitt, I'm not sure they're really, obviously, well, they're clearly not progressing, but I don't know what they've got left. And then you look at the other three, they all contested last time: Dottie the Great, Take No Chances, and Strong Leader. And you could literally just throw a blanket over them coming to the last. So obviously, it was a Sean Bowen masterclass that got him up on the line. The weights are all the same. There's going to be probably very little between them once more. Similar sort of flat track. So I think Impotoire is obviously the one of interest. The fact that they had the choice, they could have. Part of me thought that maybe they would run Impotoire and Honesty Policy just so they could see who's going to be a handicapper, who can we use for the stayers. Are they both stayers horses? But at the same time, I also thought it would have been brave for them to send Honesty Policy over first time out, send him up to 3 miles against horses that were race fit. So I'm not disappointed to not see Honesty Policy here, but I'm just going to watch it with interest to see how Impotoire, how he stands against the market leaders. But I'd be shocked if it's not Ireland taking the stayers hurdle come March time.
Okay, yeah. Sort of echo both of your comments, really. I'm going to sit and watch it. I do think Impotoire, if there is going to be one there who's going to be perhaps better than grade two level, a grade one horse, it could be him. So impressive what he did last time out. I thought he was really good, strong at the line. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing how he gets on up in grades. Anything else for Friday? Jake, come straight back to you.
Yeah, a couple from me. In the 12:15, the maiden hurdle that opens the card, Sinatra's gone in quite a short price favourite. I thought perhaps the one to take him on with Act of Innocence for Nicky Henderson. Obviously went to that infamous Newbury Gallops the other day and it ran really well up the home straight, so we know we know he's fit. But yeah, no, he's got the form with Sober Glory in that listed Newbury bumper, which looks really strong. Obviously, Baron Noir even was in third place that day. He's obviously ducked pretty well on his hurdles debut. Sober Glory obviously absolutely bolted up on his hurdles debut. He's won a race since as well. He's moved to Nicky Henderson. I thought that at the bigger price, I'd probably play him. In the fillies race for the juveniles, the listed race, I thought that Highland Crystal would just take all the being here for Gordon Elliott. The fact that they've sent her over. I know this is a listed race, so there's no penalties anyway, but the fact that she's already ran an academy hurdle, got that win, she absolutely bolted up that day. She's got that bit of experience on side. I think it's quite telling that they sent her here. They obviously had Monge 2 in as well, but they've chosen her. So clearly they think she's quite good. And then probably the nap of the day, I'd say that my strongest bet of the day anyway is Telepathique in the 225. I just,
Come on!
yeah, I know you love this one, Bully, but genuinely, I think she's got such a good chance here. When we did our Ante-Post preview for the Paddy Power, I think it was, I mentioned her as a horse who could win at one handicap because her mark's 148. It's not exactly a gimme. But I think she's got one handicap in her off that type of mark. I think Newbury's going to be the perfect jumping test for her. I think she'll absolutely love it round here. And her form with Began obviously got boosted no end yesterday. Began went and absolutely bolted up in a listed mares race at Market Raisin. She won it literally like a piece of work. Like she just cantered through and won easily. Telepathique was trying to give her weight the last day. She was needing the run, and she obviously jumped out to her left at a right-handed track, which none of those things helped. She ended up getting beat, obviously, by Began, who was race fit. I think that she'll come on massively for that. The Mares Chase is obviously that's big target. She was such a short price for it last year, Bully, before you ultimately didn't get a run, which was so sad. But yeah, I think in a race where there's a lot of horses who have questions about them, I think she's the solid option. So yeah, Telepathique in the 225.
It was so painful last year. I think it was 14-1, wasn't it? I tipped her up at something like that, 14 or
Something
12.
like that, yeah.
Yeah. And then
And
she
got
went
into
off. She would nine. She would have been 9-2, 5-1 or something at the off.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And she would have had a mighty chance. I have to say, on that Carlisle run, it just smacks of a horse who just desperately needed the run.
Yeah.
She just blew up, didn't she? And as
And
you
she
say,
drifted out from odds on as well, all the way up to 7-4. So you could
yeah.
tell that, the market was speaking in Pagan's favour.
I mean, I hope she wins because I love her as a mare. I think she's top class. She jumps so well. She's so likable. And Lucy Wadham's a class trainer. She really is good. So I'm hoping that Telepathy, like you, can win. But she wouldn't be a tip, but I'll absolutely go along with you, Jake, on that. I'll put forward one for Friday, rest of Friday. And it's Palacio for Sam Thomas, who goes in the 12:45 limited handicap chase for novices. And the big sort of question mark about him was that he was quite impressive on his novice hurdle debut at Chepstow last year, and then didn't really go on from that, and was a little bit disappointing thereafter. And he bolted up on his Chepstow chase debut this season. That was a couple of weeks ago by 8.5 lengths in very impressive fashion. Jumped well and was strong at the line. And the big question mark is whether or not he'll go on from that this season, given what happened over hurdles. At the same time, I think he looks more of a chaser, and I'm hoping that it's going to be there that we see him really flourish. He's up £8 in the weights for that, but he should be able to cope with that if he's as good as I think he's going to be. So I'm going to go with Palacio. Well, I think it's quite a decent price, around about 11-2. It looks a fairly hot race, actually, but yeah, I really like what he did. I do fear Bluey, the mare, but I think given the fact she's 11-10, Palacio's a little bit lighter in the weight. I'd go with him, with Dylan Johnson claiming 3. Pete, what about you, rest of Friday?
So I agree with you both. I think Telepathique is very interesting. I watched Pagan yesterday. I just think it takes some to get like a decent mare's chase, and then once they get to that sort of level, they're very tough to beat. They can rack up sequences. Obviously, this is a deeper waters. They've gone for a handicap chase, but in the same race as well, I was very keen for. I thought he was going to run Saturday over the 2 mile trip, and that was Western General for the Tizards. So just want to keep an eye out on. I'm not sure. I think reading the column this morning, I think they believe that this trip could be what he wants. But I looked through and I can see 2 pieces of form, and one was 5th of 5, and the other one was pulled up. And when you look at all his best forms come at the shorter trip. So I was happy to leave him. I won't be backing Telepathique, but I'll be watching it. And I've got another one that I also won't be backing, but it's definitely one which it could be tomorrow's the day, or it could definitely one, and that's Diamond Ree in the final race at Newbury, 3:35. And I'll just read out some. I'm just going to keep it as simple as possible. You go back through the form, and the form lines are with Insurrection, who's now a 140 chaser, Asta La Pasta, 136 chaser, beat Vincenzo 3.5 lengths, who obviously we know 139 chaser and ran so well in the Paddy Power. Was beaten 16 lengths by Handstands, but was trying to give Handstands weight, who's obviously now a 155 rated hurdler. In second that day was Django Bay, beaten over 12 lengths, 165 chaser. And even the Bugsy Seagal, who only finished 4 lengths behind, is a 137 chaser. So whilst a lot of that, obviously, they've moved on to chase him because he's been off the track so long. The reason why he's not a bet for tomorrow is because he's been off the track since April 2024. So it's a long time coming back. But if tomorrow, he might well absolutely hack up tomorrow anyway off the mark that looks very, very generous, because he looked like a horse with huge potential. And they talked him up a lot in the season that he was there. If it's not tomorrow, then I'd be shocked if he's not got a higher mark and he doesn't start going in maybe the time after. And it's very interesting that they've decided as a 6-year-old. But not only obviously have they persevered with him, but he's coming back over hurdles first, which would say to me that there's a strong chance they like this mark and they'll at least have another year with the mark before deciding whether to go chasing or staying over this sphere. So yeah, just one for the future, Diamond Re in the 335 on Friday.
Right, on to Saturday. We have got declarations for this week, which is great. So we're going to start by looking at the 140. We got Friendship at the top of the market, but it looks really competitive race, doesn't it, Jake?
Yeah, competitive race. I'd definitely be in Friendship's camp, but the only problem is there is 5 to 10 mils forecast for Newbury on Saturday. So if it gets towards the top end of that, perhaps it's not going to suit him as much as it would suit a horse, say like Lou Dore. But yeah, Friendship is very interesting. You've got Harry Cobden booked. I mean, I don't need to go and tell you all the form about Friendship. You know how much I like him. He's gone up £8 for his last win. This is a much more realistic race, I think, for him than the one at Cheltenham looked really competitive. Obviously, I know it didn't work out. In principle, when they actually ran the race, it didn't really work out as a competitive race. But they took him out there because the ground was heavy. As I said, you just wouldn't want it to get back towards heavy again because they might take him out again, is the only problem. But anyway, as I said, Cobden is booked. They clearly think he's a good chance. I think he's a really, really progressive, nice horse. And I think he is probably the best of these. It's just that slight ground concern. And if it did turn into an absolute attritional war, which, with 10 mils, it's probably not going to. But if it did, Lou Dore would clearly be the one, and he would be absolutely hammered in the market as a result of that. But his win at Bangor was very impressive. But yeah, no, Friendship would be the one for me as long as we get towards the lower end of the reign.
Yeah, Lou Dore bang was absolutely ludicrous. Very rarely you see a handicap hurdle run in such devastating fashion. I mean, he's earned what, nearly a stone rise for that, so he's going to have to massively improve in a race that's a lot tougher. But if he gets that nice lead, he's going to be a tough one to catch, I think. Good stuff, Jake. Pete, what do you make of the race?
I pretty much echo all of Jake's thoughts. I was on with Friendship at Chepstow. I felt like we were robbed when obviously he fell. And then next time out, I deserted him, and then I felt like I was robbed again because he did what I expected him to. But I'm not massively keen on, like, especially at this sort of level, like backing horses when they've fallen and stuff like that. So you don't know how they're going to come. But yeah, he was just so impressive at Cheltenham. And you look back through, he's got course and distance for, beaten 5.5 lengths by the New Lion, and obviously that form with the New Lion is strong in itself. In that field that day, you had Calafet and Vol, Electric Mason, and the New Lion. Obviously, the New Lion's rated 159. Calafet and Vol, I think, it's about 140, and Electric Mason obviously won on the weekends. Now I think around 139 maybe. So I just think he's progressive, and the fact that Cobden's booked is only going to be a positive again. And also the fact you can get. I don't know if these prices are correct, because I'm just watching it through the Racing Post, but it looks like you're going to be at about 9 to 2, which is going to be almost an each way price. Like Jake said, it's just difficult to play because you could play it now and then the rain could come in and then Lador will suddenly be 3 to 1, he'll be drifting and vice versa. So it's at the moment, I'll just be watching the weather and see how we get on. I wouldn't be totally put off because obviously he's a winner on soft form and they were willing to run at Cheltenham. It was just when it turned into a monsoon, they were like, no. So, but yeah, Friendship picks himself for me.
And move on to the 215, which is the Jerry Fielden, a prestigious race in its own right, and it's over 2 miles, half a furlong. Looks like a good field as well this year, doesn't it? We've got Live Conti, top of the market, only had 3 starts so far. Indemnity, Indivar Bleu, Vianney, Give It To Me, OJ Hot Fuss, Last Rodeo, Titi Quanti, and Col du Pré. Pete, straight back to you. Looks like a good renewal of the race this year. Plenty of recent winners on show and lots of potential as well.
Yeah, I think this is a really good race. Like, we complain about a lot of like it not being competitive or not. Like, this is one of those where it's got a bit of everything. You've got unexposed horses, you've got horses that could be potentially graded, and then you've got some that are really, really could be really, really well handicapped. So yeah, this looks a brilliant race. One a little bit left field that up in the higher prices is Tutti Quanti. Again, I go back to my comments about Paul Nicholls. I do worry about what's going on and like why he's not, a lot of his aren't like, and obviously with the whole Dan Skelton effect, you just showed the difference, obviously switching the trainer on the weekend, the way his handicap are bolted up. But again, you go back to like, he was only sent off, I think he was 11 to 4, and at one stage he was vying towards favouritism against Celtic Dino in the Welsh Champion Hurdle. He obviously ran no race for whatever reason on that day. it's interesting that they've decided to persevere and keep him, because it was supposed to be one run and then go chasing. And I think in their heads it was going to be one win and then go chasing. But you look back to that form now with obviously Celtic Dino and Alexi. Like, even if he'd been on form, like, it would have took a monumental performance to obviously beat those two. Like, Alexi, I think, is up £20 now, and Celtic Dino something like nine or £10. So he could still be well handicapped. And then going up the field, the two that I struggled really hard to get a real grasp on was Vianney and Indiva Blue. Both of them look unexposed, but hard to weigh up how well handicapped they are. Live Conti, I've read the comments from Skelton and had a good look at the form, and he's talking about aiming him at the grade one at the end of, like, this almost being like a baby year where they just slowly ticking through the season. And one of his main targets will be the grade one at Aintree, the 2 mile, 4 furlong hurdle. So if that's the case and he thinks he's to that level, then okay, that's strong. But I'm just not convinced at this stage. Like, 143 is a lofty enough mark, especially considering he only ran to 133. Take off Tristan's £3. He's still got to find £7 plus first time out. Would I be surprised with Skelton? No, I wouldn't. But the horse that, again, he's not favourite, but he's towards the head of the market that picks herself, is Indemnity. Like, I was on Alexi at Ascot in the Lavaza handicap hurdle, and the way they both travelled through the race, and then I thought, he's got this wrapped. But Indemnity wasn't going down without a fight. And then it wasn't until towards the latter stages when Alexi really turned it on and pulled away. But I mean, as I've said, like, Alexi was running off 127 now there, and I think Alexi's now rated 147. And you look at the difference, obviously, beat the Greatwood field further than what it beat Indemnity. Obviously, that could have been by design, holding on to some. It's been a brilliant training performance. But I just think my only concern, again, obviously I moan about Nichols or question Nichols, is Emma Lavelle's in a very similar boat. She has had a winner in the last few days. And her last 5 runners, 3 of them have been in the places. But she is just coming out of that cold spell. So, and we saw Marchand too disappoint last week. But if you're just going on strict handicap form, I think he's got to be the one to play for me, Indemnity.
That's a great summary, Pete. It really is, of what looks a really strong race. Jake, come to you on this one. Looks a proper renewal. We got to think that Live Conti's going to have to be very special, isn't he, to win this off 143?
Potentially so, yeah. I mean, there's definitely some well handicapped horses in here. I just worry about when their day's going to be. Vianney, I think, is definitely well handicapped of 124. Harry Durham's already spoke about stepping up in trip at some point, so I could see him being, maybe like Class 2 level rather than this Premier level, and winning a nice race, something like the Lanzarote maybe in January, that type of race. But I would just worry about him over 2 miles. I'm not sure how much pace he's actually shown just yet. Obviously, juveniles strictly run over 2 miles no matter what. Live Conti, very, very interesting. Obviously, he only had his second start for the Skeltons, went second behind Mercier in that grade one. He drifted all the way up to 16-1 on the day as well. I remember him being quite short the night before, and he was a massive drifter. I think that was a really, really smart performance to finish second there. I think the more rain, the better for him. I think, towards that top of the end of the scale, the 10 mils, I think that would help him greatly if Tristan Durrell takes off free, which is going to help him as well. I think on a line through Give It To Me OJ, he would definitely finish again ahead of him. They were off levels that day. They were off levels now, but obviously Tristan takes off the free to give him the swing, and he beat him quite comprehensively at Aintree. So I'd definitely give a shout to Live Conti, because he could just be the class above these lot. There's a lot of horses in here rated in the 120s, whereas he's obviously got that 143 rating. Whether or not he deserves it, I guess we'll find out. But Skeltons aren't messing around this season. I know they think a lot of him, and they're very looking forward to him going chasing this time next year. So I can definitely see Live Conti. Indemnity, I worry about, obviously Emma Lavelle. That's the main thing, the stable form. Marchand 2 ran absolutely no race last week, and they had no explanation for it, which puts him down in my bad books. But equally, the ground with him as well. Like, he's got ground, like form on the ground on the flat, but he hasn't over hurdles at all. He's been exclusively run on good to soft ground over hurdles, so that would be another slight concern. But yeah, I did think Tutti Quanti was very interesting at a massive price as well. 16-1 for about a horse who, as Pete mentioned, was 11-4 for a world champion hurdle. And they did actually mention, I just went and looked before I started this talk, and they did mention going chasing with him, and obviously they've decided to come for another hurdle. So I would say that says quite a bit as well. They obviously think this is a winnable race. So yeah, no, I think the two I'd go with are actually two of the more classy types in the field, in Tutti Quanti and Live Conti. I think that they could be the class apart, and both of them won't care what the ground does either. Like if it rains, they'll be fine. If it doesn't, they'll be fine.
Yeah, interesting that both of you think that Tutti Quanti could run a good race, and he's around about 16-1 for this. I'm looking forward to seeing Nivar Blur myself off the back of a break. Second start after a wind up. The first, he was pretty impressive at Foslas. In admittedly a weaker race. That was at back end of April. And I expect race fitness to be no issue at all, given the Ollie Murphy yard are steaming this season so far. And yeah, I think he's going to be much better than 126 in time. So looking forward to seeing what he can do. Big race on Saturday. That is the Coral Gold Cup. It is, of course, as always, over 3 miles too. Maya Town, Resplendent Grey, The Changing Man, Highland, Catate Dore, Inch House, Panic Attack, etc., etc. And a full field, Jake, this year. And so many familiar names. And as you mentioned at the top of the show, it's a proper renewal, which hasn't been the case for a few years.
Exactly, yeah. Not been a case for a while. Such a hard race to get stuck into. I actually went back, I think I mentioned it last year as well, but I went back and looked through the horses that I've tipped up for this race, and I've still never tipped up the winner. So it's not a race that I'm going to be getting stuck into because clearly I am useless at it. Although last year I did get closer than ever with Broadway Boy finishing second. That's the closest I've ever had. So, maybe I'm going on the right track, but a 24 runner handicap is not the one to get me out of jail, I don't think. I was actually moaning about the market to both Pete and Dan during the week. Like everything is just being shortened and shortened and shortened towards the top end. We've seen a few drifts this morning now that we've got the full field through. But Martown, clearly he's got top form. You don't win a Cheltenham handicap by that far if you're not as good as what he looked that day. Obviously, he was off a much reduced mark. He's gone up over a stone for that. That's going to be the question mark. Can he go and back up off a £15 high mark? But if you actually look at his mark now comparatively to some of the other horses that are around that level, like the Resplendent Greys of the world and stuff like that, he actually still probably looks better handicapped than a horse like him. Like Resplendent Grey, I would have been all over for this if he hadn't won the Colin Parker. The Colin Parker was not the plan. It was not the plan to go win that. They took the cheek pieces off and everything. They thought, okay, we're going to nice spin into him, hopefully finishing, second or third, and then we'll come straight to Newbury. I think he was off 147 before that. He's gone up £6. That makes life a little bit tougher for him. Equally, he's into 13-2, which is not exactly a price I would want to chance to find out if he is that good. So, yeah, it's been a race that I'm not that keen on the front end of the market too much. Like Highland, again, like I actually was coming around to him midweek, and then when I've seen this weather forecast, he's not going to want any inch of rain at all. So that would kind of put me off of him. The one that's just at a massive price that I probably will end up having a little spin on just because of old time's sake is Lowry's Bar, which I'm currently looking, you can get 28-1. But he
Love
hasn't
it.
done anything wrong other than that one Kempton race where he completely ruined the rest of his season, which is basically the exact same thing as he did the year before, where he went to Exeter and was beaten by a 100-1 shot or 200-1 shot, I think it was, in a novice hurdle. He just doesn't train on past January for whatever reason that is. I don't know why. They did obviously want to get a prep run into him before this, but they couldn't because of the ground. So they're going to come here fresh. He'll love any rain that falls. Clearly, he's just a horse who is a bit forgotten because he was shorter than pretty much all of these for Cheltenham Festival handicaps. The ultimate, when me and Dan were giving out all the propaganda this at the beginning of the year, he was, I think, like 8-1 joint favourite basically for the ultimate, whereas loads of these horses were bigger than him. He's now obviously the biggest price because he's not done anything since. But at least he's not done anything, to harm his claims further than that Kempton race where he bled and pulled up, which I can put a line through. So, yeah, just a massive price. I'd give him a slight chance each way, but it's not a race I'm getting stuck into.
Yeah, again, it's just a great summary to hear your thoughts, Jake, and it just shows you that the competition in this race is so deep, isn't it? It really is. Pete, before I get to you, I'm not confident. I'm not confident. I think any selection in this almost has to be tentative by the fact that it is such a strong race. But I I quite like the chance of Inch House off his weight because he has got a very low weight, and I feel like his reappearance at Cheltenham was actually a really good run, and he looked like he just needed the run. He was leading until the home turn, and he jumped for fun, and he just blew up. I think in the closing stages was done by some who were slightly fitter. I take on board what Pete was saying about Paul Nicholls' form so far this season. He has had obviously a few winners, and he won this race last year with the same owners. with Can Do Kids. So I'm hoping that this has been a target for Inchaz for a while. And I think he is well handicapped on his form, his winning form at Newbury of last year when he was a winner off 130, and then went and finished 5 lengths second to Stumptown at Cheltenham of 137. He's now running 131, so he's clearly well treated. And what I wouldn't want is too much rain for him. He has run well in heavy ground, so I'm not too bothered, but I think he's probably more of a powerful force on good to soft. So that would be my slight concern. And the trip he's not actually proven over just yet. I can write off his run in the race last year, in the Mandarin last year, of course, in distance, when behind Henry's friend. He just didn't seem to be the same horse last year. And also, he was hampered really quite badly in that race. So you can put a line through that. But judged on that reappearance run, which was nearly a year off the track, hadn't been seen since last December in the Mandarin, I thought it was a very nice performance. And he was nearly beaten 10 lengths at the line, but he clearly blew up. On his form for John Joe O'Neill, he is well handicapped. And given the fact he's 23 of 24, he's right down the bottom of the weights. Last year's winning team, Harry Cobden's in the saddle. He'll do for me around about 16 to 1, which I think is a fair price. What about you then, Pete, for the big race on Saturday?
Well, the reason me and Jake were both laughing is because Jake knows of the 24 runners, the one horse I've backed in here is Inchaz.
Yeah. Sorry, Pete. Sorry, mate. Got to carry a penalty now.
Yeah, no, you've literally summed up everything I could have said. Yeah, that's exactly the same. And I just thought Nichols said last year he just couldn't seem to get him right. He couldn't get him where. And it just reminded me of like the comeback run, same thoughts as you, where I just thought it reminded me a bit like the Ginny's Destiny, where they said they'd almost discussed beforehand, like try and get him to like the top of the hill, see if you can get him jumping, get him as far into the race as you can, and then once obviously your chance is gone, then just don't go. And it just was exactly the same. I just thought as soon as his chance was gone, he eased off him, come off the rail, and I just thought I've got a feeling that you could have maybe 10, 20 pounds in hand on your mark if they can put it all together. And obviously it is a stable upgrade from John Joe to Paul Nicholls, and I just think that there could be a big run in him. The only downside that I had, because I backed him Ante-Post, is the fact I did not expect to see a 24-runner field, this to be obviously as competitive it is. Like all the Irish have come over. Like this is a proper field. But the positive is, as you mentioned, especially if we don't get too much rain, is he's going to be one of the horses that are going to be a lot more prominent in the field. And I think if you're not in the first, probably third, maybe a quarter, it'll be almost like a Grand National. If you're not in that early prominent over the first two fences, if you're not in that front area of the field, I think you're going to struggle because you're going to have traffic, you're going to have problems, and it is going to be hustly bustly, whereas he's not going to have that sort of issue. And it's just so hard to not. He's got 2 wins over fences, both have come at Newbury, and he was progressive and really impressive when he was on for John Joe O'Neill, and then he just obviously dropped off a little bit. And I just think this is a sort of horse that Paul Nicholls really relishes. He was quite lukewarm on him when he was asked in the week at that Newbury Gallop and stuff like that. But I think that's just he took a real slating for that winner that he had at Cheltenham, where he obviously mentioned Denman again. And I think he's just very mindful at the moment of what he says. And I think he was just like, yeah, I'm hopeful of a big run. He's not like Can Do Kid, but I am hoping that he'll get the job done. Blah blah blah. So yeah, he was my pick. Since then, I've had a good look through again. Meartown. My only concern with him is the price. Like I do think he's got a very strong chance in this. Like you look at some of the horses that he beat back there, like the likes of the Changing Man, he's unexposed. But the issue is like he's been clipped 2 points off just a comment that the trainer said yesterday. Like they said he's like one of their best horses they've had, and then suddenly you've got 7s to 5s in a field which probably most of us thought maybe have 18, 20 runners, and you've gained probably an extra 6. So that's my issue with him. Exactly the same as what Jake said, Resplendent Grey. I don't like horses who come here having won last time out when you clearly shouldn't. Sean Bowen doesn't read the script of how to come second, because that just simply should not have happened. Like he's gained himself, what was it, £6? He's gained himself £6, which he didn't need to have here. Changing Man just doesn't win. Highland is a good horse. I'm not really keen on Nicky Henderson too many of his handicap chasers. Would worry about the rain. It wouldn't surprise me if he ran a big race though. And then I could just go through and through, and this is where I got stuck. It would not surprise me if you got the likes of an O'More Park or one of these Irish Raiders that they've kept on the go, kept quiet, and then they're the ones that come through and win it. So for now, the only selection I have is the same as you, which is Inchaz.
Yeah, great stuff. I'm really glad that you agree with me, I have to say. Pete,
Someone
we'll
has
amazing.
to.
see. Come 3 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a rarity that anyone on this podcast agrees with me. So it's nice to have that, I have to say. Actually, as well, look, 142 grand to the winner of this race. I mean, it is absolutely should have a field as strong as this. So it's just great to
Yeah.
see. It's bounced back to how it used to be. On to the 335 on Saturday. It's the 2 mile half furlong handicap chase. It's a class three. I'm going to go back to you, Jake, because I know that you were keen enough on General Madrano last time. He ran well. Looked like he might have needed the run. Are you going to be with him again or something else?
I'm not, no, and any rain that falls is not going to help his chance. I think he's a proper top of the ground type of horse, so that would hinder him, and he's also 7-2, which I think is very short for what he is. So yeah, no, I can see his claims, but I wouldn't be with him. Jabba Allen was another horse I've been with recently. Jumped beautifully, but the way he got beat at Aintree quite easily in the end by Bamba number five. Again, he's quite short now that he's reopened around 4-1 type price, which I think he's a good horse. I think he'll come on for the run, but whether he's worth that price is another matter. The one I actually quite liked, a fairly big price in the field, is Dorian DeBar, who's joined Nicky Richards. Now, he used to be with Pauline Robson. Obviously, she ended up retiring, so all her horses had to be spread out across the Northern trainers. If I just read out his form though from last season, it's just really, really strong. He beat the Kaluki Kid, who's now rated 141. He then beat Booster Bob, who's rated 132. Obviously, was a dramatic winner here at Newbury in the spring. He was then second to Vincenzo at Sandown. Obviously, that horse was rated 139, and then he bolted up at Ayr at the end of last season, where it was a weak enough field. He should have went and won it. He only went up £5 for it as well, so he's up to 131 now, which I think is still workable. He's obviously joined Nicky Richards, which I'd probably say is a trainer upgrade over Pauline Robson. So that I'd say that's a positive, but obviously the massive positive is that Harry Cobden's been booked. Nicky doesn't have many runners down south. He's not sent a jockey down. He's found a jockey who's already down there, and he's found the best one in Harry Cobden. So yeah, I think there's loads to like about him. A 131 doesn't hurt him at all. I think that's a really good mark. I think 2 mile trip, the more rain will probably be the better for him, to be honest. Like, if it really gets in testing, which it could do by the end of, by the last race on the card, I think that's going to suit him right down to the ground. So yeah, Dorian DeBar 9-1 each way. I think that's a really cracking bet.
Lovely stuff, Jake. Great to have some conviction as well. Love it. I'm going to put forward Rathgall Hill because don't tell me. No,
No.
okay, good. I'll do. Okay, we haven't got agreement again because I think Pete would kill me. Rathgall Hill, soft ground will suit him if the rain comes. He goes very well fresh, as we saw when he beat the famous five over course and distance last year. That was of 118. He's only £5 higher now. He's a 7-year-old. He's still lightly raced, and he will do for me. The ground, the conditions, the track, everything suits him. He's a good jumper, and he's a chaser who hasn't had too many starts yet, and everything he's done so far, apart from Aintree, when he still ran well in a really hot race behind Saint-Brouilly at the Grand National Festival, has been very encouraging. Brendan Powell is the informed jockey. He's on board, so he'll do for me. Pete, what about you? You've got a fancy in this?
Yeah, I've had my pocket picked back to back.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so literally the worst thing about it is almost word for word. My case is exactly the same as what Jake said. I've even got word for word. It says beat Kaluki Kid 141 chaser, beat Booster Bob 132 chaser, Robson to Richards, Nichols to Cobden, and I was like, it literally just goes down words. So everything Jake echoed, exactly the same. I'm not as lukewarm on. I do like General Madrano. Unless they get a lot of rain, I do think he'll have a strong chance. I think they were pretty much taking the mick the way they rode last time out. It was one of those, chance is gone. Let's give him a good fitness run afterwards. And he was so impressive in this last year. So for me, it'll be split stakes. Everything Jake said on Dorian DeBar and General Madrano.
That is Newbury done and dusted. Let's move on, shall we, to Newcastle and the Fighting Fifth. Looks a belter this year. Constitution Hill, the New Lion, Amsterdam, Golden Ace, and the Nemean Lion. Pete, comes straight back to you. A great renewal, isn't it, in prospect?
It is, yeah. It's a really good race. It's so difficult. Amsterdam, I backed for the Champion Hurdle. I did not expect to have this sort of route. I thought maybe the Morgiana, especially. I thought maybe they'd let, once Stateman was injured, I thought they'd let Amsterdam take on William Money, and to get a level of where he is, but also to increase his, obviously, to slowly increase his experience. He's still so lightly raced. Like, this is a real acid test dropped in the deep end. And my concerns for him is one, obviously, this is an acid taste going across the water. Willie's even said, and him and Patrick both said they don't normally send theirs first time out. And I remember when they sent Mystical Power over, and he just was all over the shop, and then he wasn't the same for the rest of the season. I mean, I don't think this horse is a Mystical Power, very, very different sort of profile. But the Willie Mullins camp used to be so tight-lipped, you wouldn't get anything from them. And now it seems like, I don't know whether it's because Patrick's in the media a lot more and Danny's in the media a lot more. But like you hear about Patrick talking about how they were doing workouts and then he turned around and he was 20 laps clear on Gaelic Warrior. Obviously, he was probably told people that prior to the Durham, which is how they knew. And it's the same with Amsterdam. Like you're hearing a lot of the fact that Lossiemouth was working very, very strongly and, to put it kindly, like all over him, as they'd say, which is why I think they're using this as a gauge. That's not to say he might be a horse that sparks to life when he comes to the track, and they're still learning about him because he is fragile and lightly raced. So I'm hopeful of a big run rather than the fact of, like, I think if he's beaten like a length or two lengths, he's got the ability where he can still improve. Whereas obviously the likes of Constitution Hill don't have that. So he's hard to get away on, and it was a negative for me. Obviously the comments, Constitution Hill, we're back to the same position as we have been the last four runs. Like every time Nicky Henderson talks him up to Yin, everyone slates Nicky Henderson. And then we do a massive loop. Everyone starts backing him. And then suddenly he's like, well, he's definitely going to do it. Like we had the same conversation. January Trials Day, he nearly fell, got away with it. Cheltenham, he then fell. Obviously, big issue. Aintree then fell. And now he's finished 5th of 6th. Yet we line up and he's going against the Turners winner. I promise him, I know I've got plenty to find, but a horse in Amsterdam and the champion hurdle winner, and he's the 6-4 favourite. Like I just find him so hard to trust now. Like I don't think Nicky Henderson's ever going to tell you like, oh no, he's gone at the game or whatever. And I don't think he is. I think he has got all of that. But the big real worry in the alarm bells for me was Punchestown. Like his head was in the game, he was just gone. And it was almost like someone who was chasing a bet. Like Nicky Henderson had been beaten at Cheltenham and he wanted to prove his point. Like they shouldn't have, if they wanted to go Aintree or Punchestown, then skip the other. Like it was like every few weeks. Like we've tried something different at home, throw him back out. And I just worry about how that's affected him. And the New Lion, why on earth have you never run over 2 miles if you think he could be a champion hurdle horse? Like even from debut, always 19 and a half furlongs. So 2 mile, 4 furlongs from the off. The only 2 miles he ever rode in was his bumper. I've gone back. His jumping is electric. He jumps, no doubt about it. All the race IQ data, he's tops the metrics in nearly every single race. His jumping is very impressive. And I've seen people putting up videos of various and saying, oh, yeah, look at the pace and stuff. But the pace that he showed in stuff like the Challow, like you're looking at horses like Wendigo. Like, yeah, he's on the snap against Wendigo. But that's like saying Grey Dawning's got more pace. He should be dropped back in trip because he was on the bridle against Royal Pagale. Like, I find this race so difficult to weigh up.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from with that. Actually, I sort of think that Amsterdam is going to be really well backed on the day, just because it's the Mullins Townend unexposed type. He's 7-2 now. I think he'll be shorter than that come the race. For me, I'm with the New Lion. I think he's the almost the solid one, really. I mean, Constitution Hill, you don't, as you say, you don't really going to get. Amsterdam, I have a feeling that he might be keen in the race. He was keen at Fairyhouse, wasn't he? Really keen when he won, beat Carlo Conti. But he's not been seen for nearly a year. I just worry that he's not had many starts. He won't necessarily settle. And I think he's going to have a tough test against 2 very good horses if that is the case. But we shall see. I'm with the New Line, Jake. What about you?
Yeah, tough race. Well summed up by Pete. Constitution Hill, I'd need to see him before I ever back him again. And that's kind of a catch-22, isn't it? Because if he does run well, then we're probably never going to get a price about him again. So he's just one of those horses I have to leave and let go. The New Line, I also have those issues about him not running over 2 miles before, always ran over 2.5. Look, he might well improve for going back to 2 miles. We don't know yet, but that's just the thing we don't know about him. Is just quite how good he is. I've always been against his position in the champion hurdle market for how short he's been. Obviously, we're going to find out this weekend if he deserves to have been that short or will be that short going forward. So, very interesting race. I would have been with Amsterdam. We previewed this Ante-Post obviously quite a few weeks ago. I would have been with Amsterdam. I think the only thing putting me off of Amsterdam right now is just those stable whispers about why he didn't go to the Morgiana, how he's been working at home. Is he going to be, match sharp and ready for this? It's going to be a question. I guess we're going to find out on Saturday. That this is the only answer, really. But he was electric last season in the 2 runs he got in. Obviously, he's a very fragile horse, so we know that. But yeah, his debut where he thrashed Caliconte was very good. Um, so he could definitely be the one. It's going to be a no bet race for me. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to see what happens. But yeah, it's a tough race to get involved with, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a proper race for a Saturday afternoon, isn't it? It really is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, what a day in prospect, lads. It's what it's all
I would
about.
say all the racing, yeah, the handicaps and the graded race, really good, and Sunday, oh, such a good weekend.
It's why we do the jump show. It's why we do the jump
Yeah.
show. Let's move on to the rest of Saturday and the weekend. Jake, what else have you got for us?
Yeah, I'll start off at banger. The 12:37 Newton Tornado is in here. I've probably stolen all your notes there, haven't I, Pete? It's yeah, he made his chase debut at Cheltenham. Was a really, really eye-catching performance. He was jumping well, jumping really well. Josh Stacey then goes, "Oh, look how well he's jumping out the front," and he falls. So he got absolutely cursed. But yeah, no, I thought that all of Rebecca Curtis's have been coming on first time up for their second run. Obviously, he did little wrong. We don't know how he would have finished in the end because he still fell quite far out. But he was going really strongly, jumping well. I think that he'll make amends this weekend. In the 12:30 at Newbury, the Sir Peter O'Sullivan Memorial. Very interested in two here. I'm going to obviously wait just to see what the weather does as to which one will be the play. Clearly, Hunter Legend would be very interesting if it got really testing because he's just a horse who's got such good form on soft ground. His sixth in the Paddy Power on return was probably one of Venetia's better performers, first time up this season. He should be coming on for that run massively, and off mark of 128, I still think he's got winning to do. 2-6 on soft ground around Newbury would seem like an ideal test for him. If we don't get the rain as much as we could do, though, then Ide is also very interesting in here. For Hughie Morrison, he had some really top class form at the end of last season in novice handicaps. Um, he was second behind Vanilla Blue Way. He then was second behind Masaccio at Ayr over 3 miles, where he probably didn't quite stay the trip. Finishing fourth behind Mark of Gold. I just think that he's had that run in the Patemps qualifier a couple of weeks ago to be ready for this. And I think that he'll be absolutely primed to run a big race. So that would be for me in that race. And then just finally on Sunday in the Royal Bond, I put him up as a recent notable performance last week. Cocktail Brute is in here around 6-1. Obviously, Love Me Tender's the favourite. Ferry House is currently soft and they're due more rain. I would be very worried about the ground for Love Me Tender. Obviously, he's not tried soft ground yet, so we don't know exactly how he'll fare, but they've been running over the summer for a reason, surely. So, yeah, I thought that Cocktail Brute made a really, really taking hurdles debut. He's currently around 6-1 in the market for this, and I think he's shown more than enough speed to be able to win over 2 miles, especially on testing ground. So, yeah, he would be the final one for me.
Yeah, I like him a lot actually as a prospect. I agree with you there, Jake. So impressive last time, wasn't he? Beating Cole Cannon. What's his name? Cole Cannon? Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. What about you, Pete? Anything else for the weekend?
Yeah, so these are just basically straight out of the notebook. I haven't had the chance to look since obviously decks have come in to see how they fare and what they're up against. But just a few to worth keeping an eye on, especially predominantly most of my angles I'm looking for further down the line for Cheltenham. So 11:30 banger, Idaho Sun, very impressive last time out. Definitely worth watching to see how he gets on. 11:36, the Big Western has been declared, so it'll be interesting to see how she always looked like a chaser. So it'll be interesting to see how she gets on. 12:37, banger Newton Tornado, as Jake mentioned, was very interesting. The money that came for that horse as well. Romeo Coolio, I just want to make a point with Romeo Coolio, 205. So Gordon's got a great record on this. Croke Park, Mighty Potter, Envoy Allen, Delta Work, Death Duty, No More Heroes. But the one thing that all of those have got in common, they're all 3 mile stayers. They're all staying chasers. So everyone's talking about Romeo Coolio being the next, like, a big danger in the Arkle. And that could well be the case. He could end up being an Arkle horse. But it's just a lot harder to plan when you're going 2 mile 4 and 2 mile 5. Do you go up or down? And looking at his list of horses that he's won it with, I'll be interested to see where Romeo Coolio, if he goes up. He's got a strong, really good jumper and a strong cruising speed. I just wonder whether they might end up over 3 miles rather than going against the likes of Kopek, the Boards and Lalamba.
Some proper notebook selections there. Great stuff, Pete. And really nice to have you on. So thank you for joining us this week and wishing you all the best for the weekend. Some good selections put up as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No, it's been great. And Jake, as always, pleasure seeing you. And I'm sure you'll echo the fact that we'd love to reach 200 like goals, or a goal of 200 likes. That's probably a better way of putting it. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you actually at home. Do comment on who you think is going to win the fighting fifth, whether it be Amsterdam, Constitution Hill, the New Line, or indeed something else. And next week, back to preview the Tingle Creek. Who knows which of us here on the Jump Show is going to be turning up for that? It's at the moment a little bit of a roulette, but hopefully the classic three, we shall see. Anyway, from all of us, until next time, it's goodbye.